I didn't, but I ended up going to a lot of doctors because of the health issues it brought up for me. I will say that burnout, it basically means that we've pushed ourselves so hard that our body says that enough is enough and it shuts down our body. And that can look differently for a lot of people. Some people, they're just exhausted all the time. Some people, they find that they have a lot of brain fog. They're not able to function. And that's another way of our body saying it's done. What you can do about it is find ways that help rejuvenate you. And what I mean by that is, like in some cases, when you're feeling tired, taking that break instead of pushing through, right? For me, it's as a business owner, it's very closely tied to ruthless prioritization. Do I actually need to do that thing that I want to do today? Or can I push that off? Or does it need to get done at all? Is it just something that like I thought I needed to do? So I think there's a lot of overlapping pieces, but for me, what it comes down to is respecting your limits individually, and that looks different for everyone, and working with them instead of against them. And that then helps us have because it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? We treat a lot of things like a sprint instead of a marathon. And so with a marathon, you pace yourself, you take breaks. How do you do that within your day-to-day? And that means that sometimes you take a full day off, or sometimes it means that you spend more time with friends or family, exercising, resting, and that just looks different to everyone.
And with that note, Alenka, building a business is really very hard stuff, and entrepreneurs are very less in a common word, like 5 to 6%. And building a business with intention and how to succeed in a long-term run is very hard. So a lot of people and startup people we have seen and witnessed that they have starting a business and they're trying to shut down in 2-3 years because the main cause or the reason behind it is a no right intention or the no right product or services to satisfy the customers. So how are you seeing this point that the building a business with intention in a current era?
Yeah, so I think when you're building something, why are you building it is I think the biggest question. If you're building it to exit quickly, right, to make a lot of money and exit quickly, that looks very different. And burnout is very associated with almost every interview you get with someone who has sold their business quickly. They're like, I needed to rest and not do anything for a while, right? And that's great if that is your goal. That as long as you're aligned with that. But for me, the business that I am building, when I say with intention, it means that with every person I work with any form of funding I get, I need to understand what that looks like and what the motivations behind what that partnership looks like and the details of it, so that I understand the impact on my mission, on my business. Being like, oh great, you're giving me money, wonderful. Or like some people are like, hey, I can get you money. But if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel aligned for me, it's just the type of business I'm building. I have learned to only move forward when something feels and looks aligned, right? So like the gut feeling is one piece. Does it bring me stress? Does it bring me peace? But also very in line with that is like, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the breakdown of what this looks like. Let's do the research. Let's understand all of the ins and outs of it, so that when I am moving forward there are less surprises. There's always surprises, but there's less surprises, and I understand what this will look like and what the potential outcomes could be. We can't predict the future, but we do our best.
Wow. Alenka, I would like to ask a question regarding a business and woman entrepreneurship. So at which point you have decided to make a business or a product, and what is the goal, and how you entered, and which is the stepping stone for a business for you?
Yeah, so I never in my career just thought I was going to be a business owner. This wasn't something that some people set out and that is their goal, which is great. That wasn't something that I set out to do. I saw a problem that wasn't being fixed, and I was not okay with it continuing to go unanswered. And that turned into building a company, because that was the only way I saw that this issue could work towards being resolved. I'm not saying I'm going to fix the world, but I'm going to try to make an impact. And so for me, that was just, I think, as a case for a lot of entrepreneurs, is they get so solved or so absorbed in a problem that it becomes an obsession, and that's why they start a business.
Wow. And Alanka, I think as a business owner, you might need to prioritize some tasks and duties every day, each and every day. So how you prioritize which is important for you, and how you margin that areas is based on the profitable. I mean, you might have 10 to 5 to 10 calls every day morning, like 9 to 10, let's say, for an example, and we'll prioritize the calls like I need to call the customers first, or there should be a payables, or I need to call the bank. And how you prioritize your task, and actually which matrices you will use on your daily task operations.
Yeah. So the way that I manage my day actually has to do with what my goals are for the next 3 to 6 months. So I have recently I've slightly pivoted my business in terms of launching a prototype first. And so then I built out, based on the assumptions with the prototype, a business model that supported it when we go full launch. Having those numbers in front of me determined what my next steps needed to be, right? So my next steps right now mean I need to doing health provider matchmaking in the holistic space. Because it's matchmaking, I need to have a few hundred providers signed up. And so that determines I'm daily reaching out to providers. I am setting up calls with them. I am following up with them. That is my day to day, because that is what I need to do right now in order for my prototype to be successful. And then the next step of that is what are the tasks on my plate that are blocking someone else from getting what they need to do done. And so those are kind of the two things that I look at every day to prioritize. There's other tasks, obviously, that need to get done, but maybe those are tasks that I can do on downtime. I mean, like, instead of watching TV in the evenings, right? Like, what are those tasks that I can do where, yes, it needs to get done, but it can get done in the next couple of weeks. It doesn't have to get done right now. And that's kind of the filler task. And I'm sure you've seen this matrix of like what's important and urgent, and then if it's not important, not urgent, right? And you can kind of decide based on that matrix what to prioritize first. I think it's really important to the analogy I give is when you're getting on a flight, you need to have your passport, your wallet, your phone, and to get on the flight at a very minimum. Yeah, it'd be great to have a suitcase. It would be great to clean your place before you leave, but you don't actually absolutely need those things in order to get on that plane. So if you take that to your business, absolute things that need to happen in order for your business to move to the next step, because I think we often get lost in what we think we should do rather than what absolutely needs to get done.
Wow. And Alanka, I would like to ask a common question that I have asked in previous episodes also, that the AI is booming and a lot of people are used to AI, and the NVIDIA chip prices are going in a hike, and it's over the ceiling anyway, and the prices are hitting peak and hike. So a lot of people are used to AI, and especially when it's come to ChatGPT and some AI tools which is available in free of charge actually. So people are combining these AI tools with social medias and their promotions, etc. And the things are getting faster when we compare to 2023 right now. So how you utilize this AI in your business, and what is your advice for the people who are watching this podcast regarding AI and the business, how the combination should work?
Yeah, I think it needs to align with what your company is and what the mission is of your company, right? And so for me, I'm a very human-centered company. What we're building is very centered around human connection, human experience. And I say that because AI is really helpful in terms of like, let's make sure there's no spelling mistakes. And I when you're tired and you're doing a lot of things, still happen, things fall through the cracks, but like, let's make sure that it still feels like my voice, but it looks clean. Or let's say I have someone who's provided me like 3 paragraphs long of, an explanation of what they do. I need 2 sentences. Getting AI to like make that into 2 sentences is incredibly helpful. I think there are a lot of tools out there that can make your business faster. I think there's a lot of great suggestions on, like, for example, how to create social media content by asking ChatGPT for prompts for pain points for your target audience. I think those are incredibly useful things. I think the one thing that I see yet that is not great is that ChatGPT has a very cold tone. It doesn't sound like a human, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to reach people, people sense that it might have been created with AI. And so I think there's a lot of ethical considerations around that we need to keep in mind. But it is a tool like other tools have been. Like, I think proficiency with AI will be what people put on their resume 10 years ago as proficiency with Microsoft Word, right? Like, it's just like a basic thing that people are going to, everyone's going to need to use. That being said, we need to make sure that if we are looking for human connection, that human element, which for the most part we do, because the humans are the ones who make the buying decisions, there needs to be a balance.
Wow. And Alenka, one more interesting question regarding your business and entrepreneurship, that the conventional medicine and how to find the answers beyond the conventional medicines is the highlighting part, I guess. And what is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that if you have found answers in conventional medicine, I am so happy for you. You are the minority, but you are a happy minority. And I think that's wonderful. For the rest of us, we have, tried a lot of things and haven't found answers. What I am trying to build, or what I am building, is a way for people who have not found answers to be given options, to be given providers and types of treatment, types of care that they maybe have never thought of before. And we do that in a way that aligns with people's beliefs and value systems. And the reason that's important is because if those don't match, it's not effective, right? Like, if you don't believe in therapy, but you're matched with a therapist, that's not going to help you move forward, right? So we give you more than just that as an option. I think for me, it is about giving people agency. So giving people who haven't found answers control back over their health, giving them the opportunity to understand that, okay, I can do something about this and I can feel better and, have a better quality of life. And from the provider side, it's really about supporting them and giving them their time back so they can focus on taking care of the people that, they got into what they do to take care of, instead of spending a lot of time, trying to find clients that maybe aren't aligned or not ready for them, right? Like, if you know that you need to do intensive physical therapy, but you don't have the energy or the time to do it, then that's not the right solution for you, as an example.
Wow. And that means, Alenka, that conventional medicine is failing in the future, or how are you seeing the future of conventional medicine?
I mean, I want to say, first of all, conventional medicine is incredibly powerful and amazing. And it's doing, like with AI especially, there are some crazy, incredible advances and things are moving forward. I see conventional medicine as a model that was created, especially in the Western world, for, you don't want to dive too much into this. Most of the tests that were done, the studies that were done, were on white men. And that was what the conventional medicine model was built based on in the Western world. It is evolving. You're adding more ethnicities. We're adding, women have become more standard into the early 2000s, women were not added into standard pharmaceutical tests, right? And that's 50-ish% of the population, meaning there needs to be, and it is evolving and it is changing, but it is still not filling a lot of the gaps. And we are still in many ways. So like, say you get in a car accident, I want to go to the hospital, right? If I have broken a bone, that's where I want to be. But if for some reason, like, that healing process is really slow and there isn't answers, like this happens, right? It happened with me where I keep re-injuring it. It's not healing. You kind of hit a wall in terms of the treatment options that are available. That's where I find conventional medicine has its limits. And so that's where we're trying to help bridge the gap. There are more options out there than I think people realize. Outside of the Western world, people see it more. It's more part of like the day-to-day culture, and it's bringing that to the people who are open to it is the goal of what we're building.
Wow. So it's based on a people connection and their mindset and love and affection. A lot of things are there. But Alenka, one more thing, that when it's come to the entrepreneurship, there are small startups mostly focused on health and well-being. So the current trend is going on that way, and health is very important and major factor for each and everyone. So how you seeing, and what is your vision and the mission of the company, and how you seeing your future in this industry?
Yeah, I am so grateful that health is becoming more of a forefront and people are really prioritizing it. I think that's one great thing that came out of the last few years is that people understand that their health is more important than any amount of money that any of us could have, right? And I think that is part of the impetus behind why there are so many startups in the health space. Most health startups or health tech startups are focusing on either a very specific problem or very specific modality. What I mean by that is like there are startups for people who have autoimmune diseases, or people who are going through perimenopause, or people who are who need therapy. There's a lot of different, but they're very specific on one condition. And if you know what you need, that's great. You can find something with that. What we're targeting and what's different about what we're building is this is for people who don't know what they need. They've tried everything. They've tried their options. They've talked to their friends. They're at their wits' end in terms of the options that are available to them. So what I see this being is a place for those who don't know to come to and have answers and have more options. I see it expanding beyond that, but that at a basis is what we're focusing on. Our initial condition is burnout, as related to chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and chronic stress. That will expand to more conditions as we grow, but that's initially what we're focusing and targeting.
Wow. And Alanka, building a company as a female solo founder, how it feel actually?
Building a company, I think, has been one of the hardest things I've ever done, and I've done a lot of hard things. So this is, but I feel more passionate, more driven, more energized to do this than anything I've ever done. And I think for me, if I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't be doing it. I think as a female founder, there are a lot of blocks that come up in your way because the world is not built for you. So working with that, working with, like I said, with intention, with who I work with is really essential. Granted, I come from a software background, right? My background is building software for almost 15 years, which is a primarily male dominated industry. So I already have a lot of the tools in my toolkit in terms of how to navigate that world and how to work with that world. And I am much of the mind that just because it isn't easy doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. Usually the things I would say in life in general, not just in entrepreneurship, things that are the hardest, but that we choose to work through, that we choose to learn from, to grow from, are the most valuable and the most rewarding. And that's how I choose to look at this. Yes, there are blocks in my way. Yes, there are things that are harder for me than for other people. Does that I stop? No, that means I keep going and I build community with other female entrepreneurs. I have ongoing calls with different types of entrepreneurs, and we get together and we talk about things because I think it's really important to make sure that you don't feel alone, that you feel that you can talk to someone else who's going through something similar, and it makes the experience more manageable. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it more manageable.
Yeah. And Alanka, as because of you're an entrepreneur, so building a team is very hard. So there are people comes in and go out. So how you manage a team and how to build a team and the right efficient and effective team, how you choose the people to work under you and how the system will work inside the company?
Yeah, so I've spoken with a lot of founders, and one of the things that one of the founders I'm friends with, he mentioned he's sold his company recently, and so he's gone through the whole, the whole experience. And something he mentioned that I've seen over and over again is you need to know, do a deep dive and research and understand each aspect of your business and have had some experience in it, right? In order to be able to effectively understand what the requirements for the role are, what you're expecting from the role, right? Because you could hire, let's say, a marketing person, and you might have expectations from it, but the reality of the restraints of, the current market, the systems available, et cetera, then if there's a mismatch, it's just frustration on both ends. So can you be an expert as much as possible, learn as much as you can in each aspect of the business before you hire someone either as a freelancer, a contractor, or a full-time person? And then aside from like the actual skills required to do that job, whether it's customer service, marketing, graphic design, whatever it is, what are the personality traits that you are looking for in the people that you're hiring? You don't want a copycat version of yourself, right? Because you want someone with a different viewpoint, different opinion. I think that is so essential, and it's so important to surround yourself with people who are experts in things that you only know so much about, and that come from a different background, that understand things in a different way, because and there's statistics behind this, it builds a more well-rounded company and a more successful company. And if you think about it, if you come with one point of view, you have blinders on and you're only addressing one problem. But if you take those blinders off and you have people around you, let's say I'm imagining a semicircle or a full circle of people who are looking out in all these different perspectives, you're going to consider more things and build a business that takes that into account, which means that you are looking at the market in a way that you're covering your back in terms of like market changes and shifts. You're building something that's more stable, stronger, etc. I think it's also important to understand when to cut ties and when something doesn't feel right for whatever reason. And that could be a mismatch in so many different things: mismatch in expectation, mismatch in values, alignment, mission. It is important to do what you think you need to do before you hire someone on, but it's also important to continue evaluating both yourself and to grow as an entrepreneur and continue that personal growth, as well as understand like, okay, well, where are we at today versus where we were at, and where do we want to be? And then are we equipped with the team that we currently have today in order to do all of that? Because that evolves and changes.
Wow. And Alanka, one more question regarding this entrepreneurship. There are a lot of founders and startup people. They want to list their company in New York Stock Exchange. So this is a big dream of each and every individual. So do you think this is a right dream, or in a monetary way, or kind of their goal or intention? So how do you seeing this part?
So when you talk to people about raising capital, I'll get to your question in a second. This is very related. When you talk to people about raising capital, so venture capitalists, angel investors, etc., private equity, they're all looking to make money back on their investment, right? That is what they're doing. You need to understand your exit strategy before you even start raising capital. You need to understand where you're trying to go. And the two most common ways of doing are either being bought, right, through some sort of M&A deal, or going public, right? Those both have pros and cons. They can look different, especially on the acquisition side, in terms of like what you're like. Sometimes companies part for part, sometimes they operate, like completely like as the same entity within an organization. It just depends on, the agreement you strike. If you are listed publicly, you are then beholden to your shareholders, right? So there are majority shareholders, even if you're listed publicly, that then will be, they want their money back too, right? You're kind of in a similar position. And so what happens is that they want, usually it's on a quarterly basis, to see an improvement. What does that mean for your business? Does that mean that you are making decisions that you wouldn't have made if you weren't listed in order to get that short-term revenue? What does that mean in terms of the quality of the product that you're providing? I think those are really important questions to ask, because like, it's the same thing being like, well, I want to be famous. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you can't ever go to the grocery store, or like, sit in your favorite park and relax because you're famous now? I think if you think of it from a business perspective, being listed might be a nice ego point, but what does it do to the quality of your business? And if you're in it to make money, and like, you get a bunch of money from going public, and then you kind of like hand off the reins to someone else, wonderful. But if you're in it for a different reason, then you really need to consider what that change and shift will look like. Because effectively, a lot of people compare investment from like a VC perspective to a marriage. And it is harder to get out of a relationship from a VC perspective than it is often to get divorced. Same thing goes for if you were to put your company on the New York Stock Exchange, right? So I think it's just something really important to consider. I've been at companies that are, in both, that have been bought by private or gone public, or were gone public when I joined, and then years later they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy and then were bought out by the private equity firms, and then went private. And it looks different. There's a lot of different things going on, but I think you just need to ultimately understand what the day-to-day of that means and what it means for your company.
Wow. And Alenka, when it's come to the quality of the product, so we have quality check team and the customer feedback and all. That's a conventional system which we are working on. So how are you seeing your product's quality, and how you check the quality of your product?
Yeah. So I've been in software for a long time, and I get a lot of feedback on a lot of different things. And there's, like you said, there's a lot of different ways to check it. I think one of the books that I love, and it's a very famous book, is The Lean Startup, right? And what I really like how he explains it, in that, yes, you need to get feedback from your customers, you need to get feedback from the market, but you also need to take into consideration what you want to build and what the customer need might be that they don't even realize is a need, right? How can you build something that kind of predicts the problem and then implement it in the smallest possible way, test and iterate it, get feedback, and then continue to iterate and build off of that? I think oftentimes we have a vision of like this big thing that we want to create, but then the reality of getting feedback looks very different. And so how do we manage that? How do we build it in such a way that gives us the most amount of feedback for the least amount of effort? Because otherwise you can throw a lot of money away at product development, even research with customers. There's a lot of creative ways to do it that is cheap, effective, and allows you to build and grow much faster than like doing a huge, like doing it the official MBA way, if you will.
Wow. And Alenka, what it's mean for you, the success mean? I mean, a lot of people focusing on business, and as you mentioned, the exit stage and the bootstrap and all. A lot of entrepreneurs, they think that earning a lot of money is a success, or building a very big or giant effective customer base is a success of a business, or a great or efficient product we are launching is a success of a business, or having a right marketing team or a finance background. And what it's mean for you? What is success for you in business?
So success for me in business means I am making an impact on the world. I think, like, if we could make it to the simplest thing, like, I am making an impact. Does that mean that there is a large customer base? Sure. The more customers you have, the larger impact you're able to make. Does it mean that I am, as a company, the company's making a lot of money? The more money you make, the more impact you make, because if you choose to use your funds towards something that then is furthering the cause that you're passionate about, yes, that is great. But does it also mean that I, want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange? Maybe, if that ends up being the right way to go. But I don't think that for me is the ultimate marker of success. It is a marker of success. And, maybe in 5 years, I will have changed my answer. But I think for me, it is, why am I building what I'm building? And being able to accomplish that on some level, that is a marker of success.
Wow. And Alenka, a lot of entrepreneurs and investors and startup people are watching this podcast. What is your best advice for those people? And what is the right time to invest in business or starting a business, and where they should start, and how they should focus on each and every business, and how they should analyze this financial market and the market which is happening right now?
Yeah, I think there's no straight answer for how to decide to invest and to go for it. To me, I think that one of the most powerful lessons that I've learned is people will say there's a lot of wrong ways to do something, but they won't give you the answer on what is the right way to do something, because generally there is not one straight right way to do something. I think for me, there's a lot, and you see this, like, you talk to Techstars or Y Combinator or a lot of VCs, and they look for very specific things in their founders and specific things in the market. And those are all obviously very important, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. That being said, the fail rate of most startups that are VC funded, the last statistic I heard was 90%. 90% in any other like if you had a 90% fail rate in heart surgery, that would be considered not okay, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think it's really important to understand, like, no matter how much we do our absolute best to vet, to prioritize, like there is always a big chance of failure, and we have to be okay with that. We can take that and say, well, actually, it wasn't a failure because I learned all of these things. So the next time I try, I'm going to be in a better place. I think the biggest thing I would say is that ego-driven decisions, so decisions made because we think we are right, because we think that, like I'm the best at something, those are the ones that tend to fail more often
Yeah.
than logic, research-based decisions. And if you are making an ego-based decision, there's a really interesting, in Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, he does the
Yeah.
comparison of, there's these, when the Wright brothers were trying to build a plane that flew, they were doing it out of passion. They were doing it because they cared. That was their why. They like were obsessed with this idea. There was another guy who was better funded. He had better research. I can't even remember what his name was, but he had technically all the things that should have made him successful, and he wasn't successful, and he failed, and he gave up. If you are building something that you feel like if you fail, you are going to give up, that is not the right place to be in. If you are building something that you feel like if you fail, you're going to keep trying, obviously at some point, we all need to understand where we need to stop. But I think that grit, that's also something a lot of VCs look for. That doesn't happen because we just want to be successful. We're humans, there has to be more to that.
Wow. And Alanka, this is a very crucial time. We have discussed a lot of things about the corporate burnout and how to build the business and the financial stuff and the stock market and New York Stock Exchange and how the startup should work and where to manage and how to find the customers and how the health startups and the future will be look like and the conventional medicine, etc. And a lot of information here. At the end, Alanka, I would like to ask one more question. Where the people who are watching this podcast can find you and discuss with your business and all. And I think a lot of especially Americans are watching this podcast. I think you are from Los Angeles right now, and where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can email me info@sahacollective.com. If you're interested in signing up to be a part of what we're building, it's sahacollective.com. You can find the waitlist there. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, it's saha.collective. And I'm a bootstrap start, like a founder. So all of those ways I mentioned, it goes directly to me.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alanka.
Thank you for having me.